Hi witchlings, welcome back to my channel. It's me, your local chaotic witch aunt. And today we're talking about sympathetic magic. One of my favorite topics, truly. I did do a little research just so I have some notes before kind of hopping in here. You may be sitting there being like, what's sympathetic magic? Sympathetic magic is one of my absolutely favorite kind of topics and or theories around how we practice spells in the modern day. And understanding it and then kind of being intentional in utilizing it in your practice makes the biggest difference in terms of how your spells go. And sympathetic magic, of course, is not just like specific to witchcraft. It's very frequently seen in folk magic. It's very frequently seen in different traditions and religions. It's the idea, basically, that if this is like that, then this is that. And you're gonna be sitting there and be like, what the fuck does that mean? Let's say you have an object that is like something else. This could be like in correspondence, like as in it's a figural candle, it takes the shape of someone. It's a puppet fashioned after this person. That person is like it, so you influence that other thing and everything you do to that like puppet, onion, figural candle is felt or influenced on the person it is intended to look like. So it's also known as imitative magic, and it's basically based, there's half of it is based on imitation and half of it is based on correspondence. So you know that you are going to use a specific plant or plant spirit because of its correspondences to what you're trying to accomplish. You've already committed. You're already in it. You're already doing sympathetic magic. It's understanding correspondences between plant spirits, animal spirits, and someone or something you wish it to affect. So this is very frequently seen in folk magic because it was just an understanding that like this thing now represents that person. We'll see it a lot in fattore, or death invoices, or death curses in Italian folk magic. Some of which you are literally, some of them like you actually inflict something on the person or you give them something. But in a lot of cases, a living animal is used to represent that person. And then a tag lock or something with correspondence to that person is then added in. I am thinking of the example of where you take a live toad and you put the victim's hair down its throat and then you leave it to die. And as the toad dies, so does the person. So not only is that imitation a living thing correspondent, like a living thing like another living thing being affected by something, but you have that correspondence there, that tag lock as we would call it, of that person's hair or a personal affect given to that living thing. So that now is tied to that person. That's a really brutal example, but it's taking that correspondence of this plant is associated with this, so it is that, or furthermore, something from a person or something corresponded to a person. We often see contagious magic in close proximity to sympathetic magic, which is when things are in close proximity to each other can be affected by each other. We usually see this in describing animate objects, so like two people affect each other in a certain way when they're near each other. But when I saw and heard about the law of contagion or like contagious magic, the first thing I thought about is when you're healing malocchio in like Italian or Italian American folk magic, you start by touching the person. And if you can't touch the person or like have them there, you take a personal affect of yours that they recently were around or touched, an article of clothing, a utensil, anything, and you use that to conduct the healing. You conduct the healing on that object. So the idea that energy is moving everywhere and that we affect the things around us and things around us are affected by us is almost inherent to sympathetic magic by way of contagious magic. Because things like correspondence and imitation may not cover like, oh, well, I'm this far away from this person, I don't have anything of theirs. write their name on a piece of paper. That's literally, that's when I do evil eye cures and I don't have a personal affect, I'll write someone's name on a piece of paper. Because to me, that is something that represents them. It is something they've given their energy to, something that is literally their identity, that represents like who they are, and I can heal using that. Sympathetic magic goes beyond our understanding of spells and magic, and like I said, includes rituals or practices in different cultures and religions. I think an article I read said it's conducted a study of sympathetic magic in an indigenous tribe in the Pacific Northwest. I'm not sure if it was Pacific Northwest, but it was an indigenous tribe, and the way in which they were saying like, well, if we do this, this will happen. It goes past like, oh, I'm going to use this puppet to represent someone, and no, like tying certain rituals of like to something happening. So for example, you take a candle, you write this person's name in the candle, you have the candle represent them, and then you take like objects and cross it over them, if that would represent a crossing of opportunity, if it was a physical crossing with physical objects. An example of kind of sympathetic magic too would be binding. You take a person's name or picture and you wrap thread around it. Candles representing someone and figural candles are very much like very big for sympathetic magic, because you take that, you say this is this person, you write their name on it, you put hair of theirs on it, etc., and then you do whatever you need to do to the candle and it will affect the person. Poppets, this could be onions, eggplants, etc. These all represent different things. Eggplants very commonly represent the phallus. You could also use a cucumber. Anything kind of pointy, with like, yeah, anything pointy could be used as a phallus. You could also just get a penis candle. Onions, I actually don't know why onions were used, but it also has to do with like, that's what was on hand. So it isn't necessarily correspondence and imitation always together. It's, what do we have around? Is it a potato? This potato is now Brad. And Brad, I'm gonna take you and do all this stuff to you and you're gonna feel it. The potato is now the person.
Holy, is that me?
Apparently.
As soon as that potato is given the name, is said, you write their name on it. I'm getting no mail today? That's fucking depressing. Is the mailman here? Oh no. Hey! Sympathetic magic isn't necessarily like, that onion has to have correspondence with, like, they both have layers. That's a Shrek reference. It doesn't necessarily have to be that. It could also be, this is what I have around. I've used a dogwood branch that resembled like something with legs before as a poppet. And I use that because dogwood has protective properties. So I'm using more correspondence of what I want to accomplish rather than it's very similar to this person and here's why. I also included my hair. It was like a protective thing. Sympathetic magic does not require you to seek out certain materials when you need to get something done. It doesn't require you to get like all of these things. It really is based off of, this is like this, so now this is that. A very common example that we can see of like sympathetic magic would be the mandrake root being used as a poppet. And when I say mandrake root, I mean officinalis or autumnalis, or there's a few other ones as well. Mandrake root was like considered a familiar spirit. Even having it on you would get you accused of witchcraft, but it looks like a person. So when you got it, you could literally take it and use it as a poppet. And so this was something that, like in Italian folk magic, not necessarily done very frequently, but is referenced in witchcraft and like traditionally as a whole, is the human-like root being used to influence other humans. It was seen as something that could do harm to other people, that could help other people, etc., because of that shape. It is why it's like so popular too, and why we hear so much about it, is because you pull it out, it looks like a little human, and you're like, ugh, mandragora. You can also do something like Blair Witch It with the little like sticks. We can consider that a poppet. That scene in Blair Witch 2 where she goes up to one, she's like, my hair's in here. Then she does this and it snaps her back, spoiler alert. That's literally like nice sympathetic magic, babe. Go off. Understanding sympathetic magic helps us to expand our practice. It helps us to learn more and elaborate on these things and these rituals that we probably are already doing. Like I said, you're probably already doing sympathetic or contagious magic with an understanding of tag locks, correspondences with herbs. With that understanding, you're already doing spells with that in mind. But understanding sympathetic magic and like is like that, so this is that, and contagious magic helps us kind of bring it to a new level. Like, oh, this herb physically like affects people this way, so if I put this herb in this poppet or in this person's figural candle or burn it on there, it will affect them that way. And this doesn't have to be like bane. This could be blessing as well. This could literally be, you know that this herb or this oil is like a holy oil. It's, by the way, thanks to the commenter who told me about holy oil in Hinduism. I was like very intrigued. Thank you. It could be a holy oil. It could be a particular thing that is used to historically bless, and you can put it on something of the person that represents them. This could even be a candle. You could write someone's name into a candle, and that candle now represents that person. So when you're adding healing herbs to it, when you're putting protection around the candle, you are now protecting that person. That is how I conduct all my candle spells, by the way. I take a chime candle, I write the person's name in it, and I literally will make like salt rings and protective herbs laid around the candle to represent a ward around that person. And because that is how I am treating it, that is what happens. Which is so interesting how sympathetic magic has in many ways influenced our modern idea of spellcraft. We do know that you want to use correspondences that align with your goal to get somewhere. But what we don't think about is all the things around us that could just be used. That doesn't need to be plants, that could be a nail, that could be salt. And I think sympathetic magic and understanding it allows us to not only, allows us to expand on this understanding of herbs. Because it's not just at this point around physical herbs. What are the correspondences magically with these herbs? We can learn about what the herb physically does to the body. And what is it? Is it antibacterial? Is it antimicrobial? And we can use them in our spells to understand sympathetic magic. Also, start doing rituals. I mean, honestly, people are like, I manifested this. I'm like, how are you manifesting? They're like, by miming that I'm getting it. And I'm like, so you're doing sympathetic magic. There was some history, or I think it was a theory, I'm not sure if it's true, of people who wanted to have a good hunt. This was people who were in caves, lived in caves. So way back. They wanted to have a good hunt, so they would draw out them having a good hunt on the wall of the cave and then dip, and they'd have a good hunt. And obviously there's more to it than that. That could be a cave that's sacred to them. That could be a connection to their understanding of what is divine, to their spirits. Being able to kind of go out of your way and say, what would mimic, or what would help this happen? What do I need to do to help this happen? And not just implementing that in spell work, but implementing that in your rituals in your daily life. That isn't necessarily saying sit down and manifest. It's saying, what do you have around you that you can use in contagious magic and imitative magic and correspondences to create a practice, a spell, a ritual in which something happens. You're pulling something closer. You could just, I don't know, write it out on a piece of paper. But if you you could have a poppet or a candle, and that candle is covered in money oil and basil and has has money all around it, and you're burning it for yourself, bringing money in. You could I mean, I'm just thinking specific rituals in Italy to make it rain or make it not rain. They aren't really sympathetic magic though. It's literally just people yelling at the sky. I'm not kidding. All right, one of them you have like a little scythe thing, you draw a circle around, you point it up, and you start screaming for it to not rain. You say a specific chant. Another one in the Aradia, which is folkloric, not historical, a bunch of witches yell at Diana for rain and said, we're gonna curse you if you don't make it rain. She goes, okay. Although you could like throw a pot of water up and have it come down. Rain, bringing rain in. You do that. Someone once asked me how I do weather as an Italian folk witch. I just get angry about it. Although I do specific prayers to ensure that it doesn't snow on the days I have to go to work. I don't typically go out of my way to yell at the sky to ask it to not do something unless it's like, oh, I really need something to work and I really need it to happen. But like historically, no issue. Farmers had no issue going out there and being like, don't fucking rain. I got shit to do. I gotta go crops. Can you wait? Wait until these seeds are in. All right. And that to me, goals. I love that for them. More examples of sympathetic magic would be like anything that's taking a correspondence to you, like hair, fingernails, etc., and then doing something to it or including it in a spell. Kind of like contagious magic. Anything where you're like taking taking a saint statue or a saint candle and putting a petition under their feet. So they are literally stepping on it and taking care of it. Saint magic. No, sympathetic magic. I did that with Saint Anthony, and I would say that the results were interesting. If you follow me on Instagram, you already know what happened. I did ask him to help me grow my Instagram, and then the TikTok ban came about and made happen, and I'm like, he's like, well, there wasn't really an opportunity, so I opened a window. And I'm like, yeah, but like you literally burned the door to the ground. Like, you know, like when it's like, when a door closes, a window opens, except St. Anthony like breaks the window in with a brick or burns the door down. And you're like, oh, okay, thanks. I'm sure that there are also more examples of sympathetic and contagious magic within different folk magics, but like, I mean, lemons are also used a lot in Italian folk magic, mostly for curses. There's at least 2 recorded lemon hexes that I know of. One is in Italian folk magic by Mary Grace Farren, and one is in Italian Magic Secret Lives of Women by Karen Crisis, one of which just like pins sticking in the lemon and sticking it with like a bunch of stuff and putting things inside of it, and one of it is peeling it off during a Christmas mass and sticking it with pins and then throwing it in someone's yard. So lemons, I know a lot of people shit on lemon hexes, but I do think that they are one of those things that like a lot of folk magics use, whether that's for purification purposes, removing obstacles or curses. And it's fine if you don't like lemon hexes, if you don't like the people who do lemon hexes, but it's in a lot of folk magic. Lemons are important. We're not necessarily gonna go out of our way to be doing it and posting about it on Instagram. However, it is a pretty good tool if you do know how to use it, like most things. I'm gonna ask my editor, Voga, to include any other rituals of sympathetic magic in a little editor's note that they can think of. The reason why I say this is the tool that'll make your craft work is because understanding it and really being intentional with it takes you from doing spell crafting to understanding why we do spell crafting. It takes you from, I'm doing this spell with these correspondences because that's what I'm supposed to do, to I understand the entire mechanics of this ritual and why I'm doing it. And that in itself is powerful. I will say this, I have never done a sympathetic like a ritual that's very heavy on sympathetic magic that hasn't worked. Because for me, as soon as you're taking that thing, whether it represents you, another person, whether it represents like something like money and coming into the home, because you can do that, you could literally just like pin money, so you could throw money in your house and be like, money comes in the house. Like the options are endless. And as soon as you know the like, if this is that, then this is that. No. If this is like that, then this is that. Yeah. As soon as you know that, there's a lot more things you can do. There's a lot more creativity that comes into play when you're formatting spells, when you're working on figuring out how to bring things in. And to me, that I think is the part that makes the magic work. It isn't because it's gonna make you more powerful or get you like, it's gonna work for you every time. It's about really understanding the basics of this and using those basics to your advantage. I'm sure that there will people become this way and be like, it's not gonna make me more powerful. I may still mess up. My spell may it may take trial and error. Unsubscribed, that's fine. You guys should know me by now. You know that I'm not gonna be like, this is gonna work 100% of the time. No, this is a tool that you should use because it'll help your practice. It's not gonna fix all your problems. It just makes things a little bit more spicy, a little more creative, a little more nuanced. So yeah, let me know if you use sympathetic magic in your practice and what it looks like for you. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to drink water, be kind to one another. If you want, you can like, comment, subscribe, and turn the bell on, but absolutely no pressure. And enjoy the rest of your day. Siate benedetti.